Hello everyone, and welcome to Thursday. Starfield is exporting. And I want to talk a little bit about Starfield today. This will be a very cool vlog for anyone who is interested in like the behind the scenes portion of what we do. Anyone who's interested in like the tech side of what we do. Because I have run into a pretty big Starfield storage problem. A few months ago, I upgraded the computer in order to more or less play games at higher resolutions and better frame rates. I knew Starfield was coming, and I was thinking ahead, and I was thinking about the fact that it might be nice to play Starfield at 4K, because all of the other Bethesda games that I've covered in the past, I've played on console. So they've run at 1080p 30. 1080p if they got that high. On some consoles, I'm sure that they ran much lower. I think I played Skyrim probably at 720. So being able to not only get the resolution jump to 4K, but then also to get the FPS jump and play at a frame rate of 60, that was really alluring for me. And I understand that content is king on YouTube. It matters way less about how pretty something looks and much more about how entertaining it is. But that doesn't mean I don't care about how pretty it is, because it's always been something that I personally have been really interested in, and I've always loved cameras and tech and things like that. So making something look pretty makes me feel happy, but also it, for me, is representative of a more polished product, and I'm happy to be able to offer that to viewers. So I did the upgrades. I was all set, all excited. Starfield came out last week. And we did a stream, and we captured it at 4K 60. Now, we can't put 4K 60 onto Twitch, so if you watch the stream, you're watching it at 1080p 60. There's only so much bitrate we can throw at it. I think Twitch's limit is 6,000 kilobits per second. So they're like, hey, you get 6 megabits. That's it. You can't have any more. That's all you get. But on the local side, the local recording that we do, we pump a ton of data into that recording, and it is running at 4K 60, and it looks basically perfect. And the cool thing is, once we have that, we can put the 4K 60 versions up onto YouTube. So if you watch the series on Steven Plays or Steven VOD, it looks better. There is way more data that's going into those videos. The file sizes are gigantic, which I'll talk about in a second, but they do look better. There's obviously trade-offs. I mean, I want people to watch on Twitch, and I think it looks great on Twitch, and you get like the live experience and can offer, input and stuff live. So that's great, but it looks better on YouTube. That's just how it is. However, a game like Starfield, that especially like you're generally playing it in like first person, and like all of the pixels on the screen are changing at all times. There's a lot of visual motion in a game like Starfield. So if you're playing that and trying to record that at 4K 60, as it turns out, the file sizes can be quite big. And the setting that I'm using in OBS is basically like, hey, hit this level of quality. I do not care what the file size is, just do it. So now that I've done 2 Starfield streams, I can talk a little bit about what those file sizes are. For like a 3 to 3.5 hour stream, we have been looking at file sizes around 450 gigs. And I know for some people that's going to sound like, that's crazy, that's the size of my entire hard drive, etc. We've been at this for like 10 years. We have very big hard drives because we've been working with large format video for a long time. However, even for us, that's gigantic. This is not the first 4K game that we have brought to the channel. We've also done Stray. We've also done The Quarry. We did those games in 4K, but this is different because I'm doing things differently, where I'm basically saying throw as much power at this as possible, and it is coming out with some really, really big files. So that big file, that 450 gig file, I give that to Dan, and I can't give that to Dan on Dropbox because it's huge. It takes up way too much room on either of our computers, and it takes a while to transfer something like that too. So I have went back to the old days of physically giving Dan a hard drive. This is an external SSD I've had for many, many years. I've been putting the Starfield episodes on it and then physically giving it to Dan so he could get access to them. And then presumably he takes that file, and I'm sure he makes a proxy, because you can't edit that file. It's too difficult. If you're not familiar with proxies is basically where you take a video file and you make an identical version of it as far as like length and content is concerned, but you make it look like crap. Crap is relative. You make it look a lot worse so your computer can run it more easily. Then you edit that file, and when you go to export it, you say, hey, export this file, but like the video that I was editing, replace it with the nice looking one. So then it spits out the nice one with all your cuts and your edits and stuff, in case you're not familiar with proxy workflows. We've had that forever. That's just a way for computers that aren't necessarily up to snuff to be able to do higher end projects. Although, to be honest, like, even if you have a good computer, it doesn't really matter, because some of these video formats are just really difficult to run. You may have to use proxies regardless. So that's what Dan does. Dan handles that, and then he uses that to finish up the Stephen Plays episodes. For me, I store VODs long term. Like, I have got tons of hard drives dated by year for everything that we have made over the last decade plus, including the streams. I like to hold on to the original stream files because that gives me exactly what it looked like. So it's exactly as if it came out of OBS. I do multi-track recording, so I have all of the tracks separated in case I need that, which is really, really helpful. And I like to hold on to these things, but I cannot hold on to 450 gigs a week. That's too much. That is too much. Because if I do that, that means Starfield alone over the course of a year is like, you're looking at, what is that? That's 2 terabytes a month? So 24 terabytes. 24 terabytes in a year of Starfield recordings, and that's just Starfield. That's not Breakfast Stream, that's not Zelda, that's not Pikmin, that's not Mouse streams, that's not anything else, that's just Starfield. That's big. So I knew that wasn't going to work for me. I was like, I can't do that. So what I have been doing is I take that file, I put it into Resolve, and I transcode it into something different. Because when I did it on OBS, I'm doing it in such a way where, like, it's a little easier on the computer, but I'm like, hey, hit this level of quality, do it however you want to do it. Like, I don't care how big the file is, but just hit this quality. And don't impact the system resources too much doing it. So when you ask it to do something like that, file size gets really, really big. So I've been transcoding it on my Mac whenever I'm done, which is what I just showed a minute ago. And it turns that file into something much closer to like 80 gigs. Don't get me wrong. 80 gigs, still a lot of gigs. Still a lot of gigs. I don't know what the math works out over the course of a year. It's like 4 terabytes or something. I don't know. It's big. It's still big. I get it. It's big. But it's way more manageable than 450. So that 80 gig file then becomes my long-term, file to hold on to and store on hard drives and stuff like that. And I've pixel peeped that. I have opened up the OBS file and the file that I make, and I've put them side by side, and I've watched them side by side, and honest to God, they look identical. I cannot find any visual difference between the two, really. And I also, in that file, continue to hold on to all of the audio tracks so they can be cut and separated in case, I don't know, something ever happens and YouTube goes down and there is no more YouTube, but another video site comes and we want to upload stuff. Like, I have all of the stuff. We could do that, and that's really exciting to me. But that's what I do for long-term storage. And then, of course, for the the VOD version, I do that again, except I don't keep the audio track separate. It's just all squished down into one audio track. And that's what I've been doing. It has been a trial a little bit, because after the first week, I was kind of frantic. I was like, oh my God, this is huge. How am I going to do this? But I've kind of taken a step back, I'm breathing, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I can do this. This is something that's manageable. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it new and challenging? Sure. But is it worth it? I feel like yes, I do. And that's just because I've always been very interested in trying to make things be as quality as possible, as polished as possible, and trying to navigate a new world where, like, oh, these are big recordings is a little challenging, but it's manageable. It is. And it does mean that at the end of the year, there will be a lot more stuff to store, and next year will be a big doozy because, Starfield has a tendency to go on probably, I'm sure, for a while. So I'll need much bigger hard drives like for 2024 when I'm storing everything, but we can make that happen. We can do that. It'll be interesting to talk about storing everything at the end of next year because I have a feeling it'll be a lot. It'll be a lot. Oh, and the game's great, by the way. I've been really enjoying Starfield. Having a lot of fun. Today I switched over to using a controller, and that was the right call. It's the right call. I might feel differently when I finally get back into combat because I really love having a mouse for combat, but it feels so much better and more natural with a controller, so I'll probably just stick with the controller. But the game's been great. I've been really enjoying it. The scope is huge, though. I can tell that it's like going to take me forever to get things done, but I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for these Bethesda RPGs. I've always really enjoyed them, and so far I'm really, really loving Starfield. Anyway, that's a little behind-the-scenes look at what kind of effort is going into Starfield. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed watching the streams. And I know the streams are only presented at 1080p, but they look great. They honestly do. Like, I don't feel bad about that at all. And also you get like the live interaction. There's a lot of benefits to just watching live. But if you miss one or you have to watch it on YouTube or whatever, they do look really good. They look really good, and me and Dan are working very, very hard to make that level of quality possible. And I am excited about the fact that we're able to do that. And I hope you enjoy it. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?